What's up, everybody? How are we all doing? How are we doing today? Oh, coming right off of... Welcome, everybody. How are we all doing? Coming right off of our premiere of the Twinkle Twinkle Patrick Star Theory. Thank you, W Theory. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a big one. It was a big project. 48 minutes. Is that the longest video besides Camp Coral and, writing rules to fall asleep to? This one doesn't really count. Camp Coral is the longest video, obviously, 2 hours, but pretty sure that's the longest video besides that. Yeah, Squidward Torture was 38 minutes. Squidward Torture is a big one. And what was it? Oh yeah, Anti-AI was 44 minutes. So yeah, the longest video besides Camp Coral so far. How nice. Thank you. I'm glad we all liked it. I'm your favorite creator. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Do you want to see more theories now? I know. It was, I mean, the reason that I did it was because it was like, it was so my channel. That was like, that's what I really liked about, because it's about media literacy, like, because my whole channel's about like media literacy and like talking about looking at shows deeper. So like doing a theory was always odd for me, because doing a theory requires looking at a show differently than I usually look at shows, because I usually look at shows from like an outside perspective, from a writing perspective, from a writing and audience perspective, whereas a theory kind of looks at a show from you being inside of the show, taking the characters seriously in a certain way. And like, that's fine. Like, theorists are very good at making that work, like I'll rip on like SpongeTruths and like No Villains Are Safe when they like criticize the characters for like being the characters. But people who make theories, like Alex Bale and Game Theory, like they understand how to like toe that line. So I kind of wanted to see how I could toe that line and also do what I do. And I think Twinkle Twinkle Patrick Star Theory was really the way of it. There's a couple others that I could do, like, I feel like another thing about Twinkle Twinkle Patrick Star is that like nothing like this has ever been done before. Like the like conspiracy that like there's a lot of like SpongeBob lives under an authoritarian regime sort of Wait, am I up? Can you hear me? It's saying start sending us video. I clicked streaming. I should be there, right? You can hear me? Oh, you can hear me? Okay. I was just confused. It's saying something. It's because I went right from the premiere into the stream, so it has a message on it, and it says, start sending us your video from your streaming software to go live. That's very weird. All right. That's just YouTube being quirky, because I wanted to tie in right off of the theory, just start streaming. I thought that would be like kind of a good idea. But yeah, like that. So yeah, so there's a lot of like SpongeBob lives under an authoritarian regime theories. SpongeBob is a police state. Who runs the government? Why is there a King Neptune? Like these are theories that have like been done, and I think that they've been done well. There was one I watched that was a recent one that was a police state theory. That was who was it? Oh, who did it? I thought they did a good job. State theory. Yeah, SpongeBob Historian. SpongeBob Historian, I think, did a pretty good job with it. Something like that. They did a police state theory. So like it's a common kind of theory, but I kind of turned it in with like the arts and the media literacy. Like that's just never been done before. So that was why I want to do it. So like there's a couple more I could do. Like I even was like talking about how there's a lot of like contradictions with like the king and King Neptune, but there's also a Poseidon, and like I don't know. I don't find that as um immediately interesting to me as what I discovered with the Twinkle Twinkle Patrick Star theory. So I don't know if I'll end up doing that. I also thought about doing a world building theory, how little you see of the ocean world. Like, that's another thing that I thought of where I could really talk a lot about SpongeBob's world building. Kind of similar to like my Gorilla Suit Day video is all about how SpongeBob is an underwater world, and kind of goes off of Ava's big SpongeBob doesn't feel like it's underwater anymore. Like, that's kind of a big subject with SpongeBob, it being underwater. There's a possibility of a part 2 to the theory. Probably wouldn't be a part 2 to this theory. I feel the thing with this theory, there was stuff I had to cut. There was stuff I had to like not there was stuff that I had to like, it just was too much, you know, like it, like, you know, like SpongeTruths, like when they do a theory, they will just like do the same evidence over and over again. And it's just like, we get it. Like, you know, the whole like, does Mr. Krabs have a fetish, where it said like 10 examples in a row of Mr. Krabs being cheap. And it's like, we get it. Like, there were so many times where like, what was one I had to cut out? What were some episodes I cut out? There was a couple of like points where it was like, I was going to talk about how in the beginning of the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, the movie episode where they make the movie, they show an episode of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy where they stop a bad guy because he parked in an illegal zone and they tow his car. And Mermaid Man looks at the camera and is like, evil can't park here between the hours of 6 a.m. and 12 p.m. And I was going to use that as evidence that like Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, their message is just like the rules, you know, like like it's just like parking rules. So like it was going to be evidence of that. And I was just like, it's just too much. Like, it just is a point where it's like, you get it already, you know, like I made a couple of points and it's like, basically I put myself in the mindset of the audience, and I'm like, as soon as I feel like the audience is sold on what I am trying to convince them of, then I'm good. I can move on. I don't have to keep bringing up episodes just because they're there. But anyway, thanks for watching the theory, everybody. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I actually made the theory because of like this live streaming, because of all this discussion stuff. I did that theory video with SpongeTruths making the theories, all that sort of stuff. You guys can hear me. Is my audio like good? It's just it was a little tougher to test. I think, yeah. Okay, it is going through the mic. Cool, we're good. We're all good. Yeah, audio's good. Okay. All right. So, the continued coverage of the downfall of SpongeTruths. Today's topic, SpongeTruths hasn't posted a real video in 2 weeks, guys. How much is SpongeBob's house worth 2 weeks ago? I remember I actually streamed the day that this came out. It was when I also covered the slave stripper detective video. What was that? SpongeTruths is getting desperate. So back when this video came out, I was already noticing the downfall of SpongeTruths, how SpongeTruths is losing views. Actually, we'll talk about their success on this 3 hours one. We'll talk about that in a bit and what that might mean. But yeah, but yeah, so let's kind of catch ourselves up on the whole SpongeTruths saga. So SpongeTruth's last really successful videos were... Get out of here. SpongeTruth's last really successful videos were the Narlene video, which is now at 631,000, and Everyone Missed This About Bikini Bottom. In between it, they got 150 on this Patrick is Not SpongeBob Friends. I've covered all 3 of these videos. You should really subscribe to Jackson Finelli Podcast if you haven't already, because I got a lot of great SpongeTruths coverage on there. And if you're watching on the stream, that is linked in the description of the stream. Also, make sure to like the stream, guys. Make sure to like the stream. It'll help get it pushed out and yada, 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 all that. So these, so after Everyone Missed This in Bikini Bottom, we started to see a little bit of a downturn in SpongeTruths. Let's even see. This one got 64K views, so that's a bit above 50K. But beyond that, we got 19K, 11K, 16, 11, 12, 30. And then from there, 30 is like now an outlier. Like, it's kind of weird how, like, looking back here, we're getting into 500,000. And then it starts to dwindle to the point where now 30K looks like a lot. And then we're getting under 20. And then they had a little bit of a, started to level out here. 40, 44, 53. Complete bomb on what SpongeBob characters sound like in other languages. Not great on this one. And kind of a tank on this one. Now, why are these views bad? First of all, is important to establish, because if you're like a small YouTuber, you might be looking at these views and being like, what do you mean? Like, these view counts are great. Like, even for a channel like me, like, I'm at 21K subscribers, about to get 22K subscribers, I guess. And like, when I get a video that gets over 20K views, I'm still pretty happy. That's still pretty good for my business at that point. You know, but I do want to see, like, I generally want to see them get past like 50K to 100K. Like, that's usually what like is very good for me, you know, is, and that's at 22,000 subscribers. But SpongeTruths is not in the same echelon as I am. He has 148K subscribers. He is just in a different world with that. You kind of need to have a bit more consistency, because SpongeTruths has had multiple million view videos, multiple, you know, well into the hundreds of thousands at times. And when you have videos that are that popular, let's see what my biggest one is. Like, I'm pretty up and coming, but I guess I'm just kind of getting right into that, like, mid-sized YouTuber, you know, place. It's enough that it's my full-time job, so, like, that's pretty good. But, like, my most popular video is 450 on Bizarro Bottom. And then from there, it's only, like, I got a nice handful of, you know, around the 100K-ish range. Like, you can see how my average on my tops is not the same as SpongeTruth's averages on the tops. So when that is the case, the fact that SpongeTruth's recent videos do worse than mine on my smaller channel is why I am seeing SpongeTruths as being in trouble. So it's all relative. So, like, if you're a small channel and you get your first video that gets 7K views, that's probably good. I was in that place at some point, and now I'm here, where a video that is 7K views would have been a lot for me at some point. So don't feel bad if you're like an up-and-coming YouTuber and I'm saying that like 20K views is failing. It's failing for SpongeTruths. And another reason why these numbers might be failing for SpongeTruths is we have to consider why SpongeTruths does this as opposed to why I do this. So like I said, YouTube is enough for it to be my full-time job. That was like the main first goal for me. Now I have other bigger goals. I'd like to be bigger. I'd like to have more influence and all that sort of stuff and get to 100K and beyond subscribers. That is absolutely a goal of mine. You know, and I have other goals to try and use my platform to try and make my own show and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of goals that I have with YouTube, but a main like foundational goal of me doing YouTube is I wanted it to be my job so that my job wouldn't be something else. That is like, I'll be honest with you. That was a major goal of it, and I achieved that goal. And my life has been a lot better since I achieved that goal, for sure. But SpongeTruths is not like that. We might picture SpongeTruths as they're a guy like me, and they're just using AI because they don't have integrity. That could be your perception of who SpongeTruths is. Or perhaps your perception of SpongeTruths is that they're a person who is perhaps in a situation or in a country where they are a little more down on their luck. They have a little bit less like privilege. So they are resorting to this, much like people who are scammers, like we might get that. And perhaps SpongeTruths is either of those things. I don't really know. I don't know who is behind the channel. But the most likely thing that SpongeTruths is that they are a tech bro. That is the most likely explanation of who SpongeTruths is that they are a tech bro investor person who has all of their money wrapped up in crypto and stocks and schemes, because that's kind of a big part of our economy is, how could I forget the Kalshi bets? I'm sure they're that as well, where they bet on drone strikes. I'm sure that's who's behind SpongeTruths, is a person who that is their job. That is how they make money, is that it's a grift economy. It's how do I look at the world and how do I siphon money out of the world without contributing something? Like, my videos are, I think, valid entertainment, and I think they do something good for the world. Now, am I a fireman or a paramedic? No. Okay. And those people deserve more respect than me. I can admit that. But I do think that what I do is important. I do think that what I do is meaningful for people. I think that a lot of people can get positive stuff out of my videos. My videos tell people to think more about the media they consume, to think more about their lives. Even like this stuff, this anti-AI stuff helps people spot AI. Like I do, and the arts do serve a social function. They do make the world better. They do make people's lives better. So I don't want to minimize that myself. So like me, and the way that I became successful is for me to ask myself the question is how do I make good videos? How do I make videos that people enjoy watching, that people get a lot out of? How do I contribute to the world so that the world contributes to me and makes this my job? That is the goal. That is not what SpongeTruths does. SpongeTruths is how do I use something that people like to cynically waste people's time so that I can get money without contributing to the world. It is it's antisocial behavior. It's a rejection of the social contract, a rejection of the living as a group that has caused the human race to survive and dominate the world for thousands of years. This collaboration of humanity. SpongeTruths rejects that, and that is why I criticize them. And that's why we should criticize. And again, similar to how I am not as good as a paramedic or a fireman or a nurse or, all these sorts of people, SpongeTruths is not as bad as like a person who, is like a private equity firm or a hedge fund manager, or someone in the military industrial complex. Like, I'm sure SpongeTruths is not as bad as those people, but they're on a certain level, and I think they deserve our criticism for that as well. So with that being said, SpongeTruths, the amount of views that I get that basically allow me to keep doing this, that allow me to keep being a YouTuber, or just to be a YouTuber full time. Because there's kind of two, because I was a YouTuber when I had another job, but I posted a lot less. My videos were a bit shorter. They weren't as detailed because I had another job. I could only put in so much time. So there is a certain amount of views that allows me to, one, be a YouTuber at all, and two, be a full-time YouTuber. There are certain thresholds that are crossed. And then eventually there will be another threshold where it's like, At what point do I cross a certain number of views and subscribers and revenue where it's like, oh, I hire more people on the team and then you guys get more videos? You know, like these are like, there are just different thresholds that change where you are as a YouTuber. And those have to do with the view numbers that you have. And my current view numbers are, this is my full-time job. So you get pretty much a video a week, maybe 2 videos a week. You know, like this is kind of where we're at right now. But SpongeTruths doesn't work that way, because SpongeTruths, even though SpongeTruths gets around the same, if not more, numbers than me, and SpongeTruths would post multiple times a week, at least when they were posting. They would post usually twice a week. The amount of views and the amount of revenue that SpongeTruths needs to get is not the same as what would support one person who, you know, lives in the area that I live in. Like, that is, it's not the same number. It needs to be satisfactory to the, I think, tech bro behind it. It needs to be a suitable number in the person behind SpongeTruth's portfolio. Because if, like, let's say this channel with its numbers, let's say this channel brings in $10,000 to $15,000 a month. More recently, with these millions of views videos, it was probably more than that. But let's just say, for hypothetical, let's say it brings in $15,000 a month. Now it has to. They pay an editor, so there's some expense there. I don't know how much they pay the editor. I don't know how that works. You know, I don't know who they pay to really do it. Pretty sure the voice is AI. I don't think they're paying a voice actor. But, you know, they pay the editor. That's some expenses. You might be thinking, all right, let's say they even pay the editor. Let's say that's even like $5,000 on an editor. That might even be a bit much. Let's say for all the videos they do, let's see, I actually don't even know. They could only drop, let's say they drop $2,000 a month on an editor. Let's say they're bringing in, give or take, $12,000 a month after paying an editor. Very rough statement. That does seem like a lot, right? But does it seem like a lot in a big portfolio where you're working with these crypto things and all of this other stuff? Like, does it actually seem like it's worth their time to continue managing this if there's other stuff that probably takes a little bit less effort than it is to manage something like SpongeTruths? Because you still, as we examined when I went over... As I examined when we talked about SpongeBob Diaries and how they're failing, this is another AI SpongeBob channel that wants to be SpongeTruths. They're failing because there are things you have to do in terms of having artistic talent to run these channels. Like, objectively, the person behind SpongeTruths does have some kind of artistic talent. It doesn't make what they make valid, because what they make uses AI and that makes it invalid. But if but in order for SpongeTruths to even get these numbers, they have to understand something about what audiences want to see. And obviously they do a lot of silly stuff in there, and we're going to watch some, of course, and we're going to see their trash and all that sort of stuff. Because that's the fun part, huh? But like, yeah, so SpongeTruths has to put in some kind of effort. They have to have some kind of discretion in order to do this, which you don't really need if you invest in crypto. You just need to kind of have the right amount of flow, and maybe you know a guy who's doing the rug pull, and that's kind of it. To the point where I don't know if these AI channels are going to continue being so attractive to these tech bros as, one, the AI stuff starts to die out. People start to recognize it for being AI. People like me who call them out become more common, and it just doesn't become as easy of a scheme than when it was new and people didn't even know, which is why they got these 1 million view videos in the first place. See how they're all like a year ago. Like, people knew AI was around back then, but it was not. This was before people were really talking about it, that it was even really noticed. People back then and a year ago, when these videos came out and got millions of views, people thought of AI as like bad images, like images that looked really off and awkward. That was what people thought AI was. So if they saw a video with real SpongeBob footage, they wouldn't even clock it most of the time. That's probably why they got more views back then. So basically, what is the number for SpongeTruths that would say to SpongeTruths, this isn't enough for me to worry about this? And perhaps that number has already been reached, and that might be why we have seen these 3 hours compilations. So it is possible that the reason we're seeing these compilations is maybe because SpongeTruths already has given up. I don't want to get our hopes up for that. There could be a video tomorrow that's a new stupid how much is Squidward's house worth tomorrow, because there's other stuff they could do still. We'll talk about the possibility of them running out of ideas in a bit. But there is definitely some stupid stuff they could still do. But to do these 3-hour compilations, because here's what a 3-hour compilations, like you see these, this isn't necessarily an AI thing. It's associated with AI. 3 hours to fall asleep to, or 2 hours to fall asleep to. It's not an AI thing, inherently. In fact, I don't think Ava was the first guy to do it. I don't know who originated it, but it's common. So Ava did 2 hours of SpongeBob lore to fall asleep to, and it's basically just a compilation of their other videos. I think it's a complete. I did it. 2 hours of SpongeBob writing rules to fall asleep to. I even did it on the podcast channel. 10 hours of destroying SpongeTruths to fall asleep to. My absolute favorite thumbnail I've ever made, by the way, is 10 hours of destroying SpongeTruths to fall asleep to. The reason that we creators do this is because you take your old videos, you put them into a compilation, and then people watch it, and then you get revenue for stuff you already made. And this got 27K views, and then on here it's 11K views. That is just free money for no work for me. Like, that is why I did it. I did it also because it's in demand. Like, people say they appreciate this video. People actually do like to fall asleep with videos on. It is a common thing. And they appreciate when a creator who's not AI makes them, because they want to hear a real voice as they're falling asleep. So that's why these videos do well. And also there's some people, like, if they've never seen the channel before, like, let's say I get new subscribers from my recent Twinkle Twinkle Patrick Star Theory. If the first video you watch is this and the second video you watch is this, that's all new content for you. You're just seeing it in a much more one after another way. So there's valid reasons to do the compilations. Sometimes we do them because we don't have another video and we are on a little bit of a hiatus and we want to kind of bridge the gap. Originally, that was why I did this one. I thought I was going to be on hiatus for like a full week when I did this one. And then like a day, this came out like 2 days after this one. I basically, when I did the houses video, I had like a day where, basically I had more free time than I thought. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a video. I'm going to do that video on Home Away from Home that I was planning. So I ended up actually doing a video, but I thought I was going to be on hiatus. When I made this 2 hours one. I think that's what Ava did too. I wouldn't explicitly say it. I don't know his strategy, but that's generally kind of why you can do them, is that it's just a way for you to have content that's out there when you're on a little bit of a hiatus. That's generally what these kind of like 2 hour things do. Those are the things that it accomplishes. It's weird to do 3 in a row. It's very weird to do 3 in a row. Yeah, it's very odd to do 3 in a row. And I think it does show. I don't think it's that SpongeTruths doesn't understand structure, because SpongeTruths is not the same as me. Like, if I did 3 of these in a row, there's a couple of reasons why I wouldn't do 3 videos like this 2 hours in a row. One of the main reasons is I want to spread them out. Like, I'm probably eventually going to do another 2 hour compilation. This one did well. Why would I not? You know, there's the next one I'm probably going to do, to give you a sneak preview, I'm probably going to do a compilation of every video that talks about a reference episode. So I put in like my Nosferatu, my Bubble Buddy. Imagination Box was in this one, so I might double dip on that one. But basically I'll do like every reference episode, but I want to wait because they're doing a reference episode on the old lady that goes chocolate soon. And I want that one to be in there if I'm going to do the compilation on all the reference episodes. So that's probably something I'm going to do. But I don't want to do them in a row because then you just kind of exhaust them. I only have so many videos in my backlog. You know, like it takes like 2 hours. Let's say I do them at 2 hours. My videos are around 20 minutes long. That's about 6 videos. So I guess every 6-ish videos, sure. But it's just odd to do them all in a row. So I think that what's happening here is SpongeTruths doesn't want to, at this time, put in any input. They don't want to pay an editor right now. We've also speculated that the AI voice that they use requires a subscription. I don't know. Let me see if that's the case. Whoops. How do AI voices work? What is it, like 11 labs? Let's see. AI audio. Do you have to pay for it? How does it work? Sign up. I see sign up. Do you have to pay?
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
I see book a demo. So do you have to pay for AI voices? Is that a thing? I actually don't really know how they work. I'm pretty sure you have to pay for them. Right? I don't think it's like where you just go and type into like Gemini or ChatGPT and it like writes you a whole script. Pretty sure you have to.
I think this is a really nice way to just talk naturally together.
Hey, are you looking for a fresh and engaging voice for your podcast? Or
My goodness. Actually disgusting to like make fake voices. I want all of this to be illegal. And most of the time you have to pay for AI voices. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's an expense. I think that's why SpongeTruths went back to another voice, because SpongeTruths had a better AI voice for a while and then it went back to its original voice. So if you look at the oldest videos, there's one voice. The middle or so videos have a different voice that's better than the first voice, and then the more recent ones have a different voice. I wonder if any of the compilations have like literally like different voices in between them. But anyway, SpongeTruths, all they have to do is go back into their old videos and put them into a compilation, and then they put it out there. So if you were giving up as SpongeTruths, why not just throw out a couple of these and take a little bit of revenue from it? Why not do that? Or if you actually need the revenue to continue operating, maybe this is a way to bump up the money and be able to push forward. That would really only be the case if SpongeTruths was operating at a loss, which I don't think that they are. Even with their lower view numbers, I really doubt they were operating at a loss. They might have been operating at a number that was not acceptable to them, but I don't think they were operating at a loss. But, you know, you just take these. And also, it's kind of a private equity mindset where what private equity does is they will buy out like a business that's failing and they'll just run it to the ground. Like they'll just run it to the end. So like you have this foundation with SpongeTruths. You have all these videos. You can turn them into these compilations and get and squeeze a little bit more out of it. Or you could not do that. Either way, if you throw it away, you throw it away. So you might as well just take that little bit left. This is all speculation. But this is kind of possibly an indication of why we got these 3 hours of this. So why don't we watch one? I don't think I can get through the whole 3 hours. I don't think I could do it. But let's do 3 hours of SpongeBob theories to fall asleep to. I mean, I just did a theory because I've criticized SpongeTruths theories before. I've done videos on like AI theories, you know, the white thumbnail theories. I've talked about it before, but this one will be more fun because this is my first time criticizing a AI theory after having made a theory myself. So we'll be able to talk a lot about that. Have you noticed that King Neptune only has 4 fingers in the Patrick Star Show, yet he has 5 in the main show? Also, he looked completely different in the first movie theory, please. Wait, is that true? That's crazy. That's got to be an oversight, right? He has 5 fingers in the main show, so it's like that's inspired by The Simpsons, because in The Simpsons, God has 5 fingers. That's like a whole thing in The Simpsons. They definitely took that from The Simpsons, where they gave King Neptune 5 fingers because he's the god of their world. And I bet in the Patrick Star Show they've just forgot that they did it. That's the Doyleist reason. The Watsonian reason could be that the King Neptune in the Patrick Star Show is an envoy of King Neptune, an impersonator who wasn't the real King Neptune, who was off doing something else. And maybe that could explain why the King Neptune of the Patrick Star Show liked the Patrick Star Show. I don't know. I think I had a pretty good explanation for it anyway. Also, the reason he looked different in the first movie is it's the same King Neptune. He just let himself go and he was losing his hair. So I just think it's the same guy. It's just he started to lose his hair and is not as in shape. And that's why he's saying my hair is thinning, because he used to have nice long hair and he's worried about it. So I feel like that's a pretty How do you feel about even Cal Art students subscribing to your channel and learning about story from you? I would love that. That would be great. I'd like students from any college or any person who wants to learn about writing to learn about story from me. That's why I do this. I want my philosophies on storytelling to be widespread. So I want people to use the things that I say. Anything I say in my videos, I am okay with people using. I don't want to say that that's not even a thing, right? You can't own a writing philosophy. It's not like a character. So I want people to use them. Bro, play the video. I want to see 3 hours of stolen theories. I know I talk a lot. The content is me, but yeah, I get you. That's the fun part. I understand.
How about a...
All right. So this is 3 hours of SpongeBob theories to fall asleep to. Does it say which theories there are? No. Look at the description. Well, good night. That's all I want to say. That's kind of... what just happened? Wait, go away. Go back.
How about a hug, crap?
Look at the description. Well, good night. Well, good night. That's all I want to say. Isn't that ominous? That's so ominous, right? Don't most of SpongeTruths videos have like a longer
Mom's
description
house.
than that? Oh, no, I guess they just have a regular description. I thought that it must have been a different channel that says, like, this is fair use under copyright. You know, like those that are in, like, the AI. I mean, I guess normal channels do that, too. I just think it's kind of cringe. You don't need to put that in the description. It's very amateurish when you put, like, this is fair use under copyright. You don't need to put that in a video ever. It's not going to help you if you do get copyrighted, and it's just pointless. Oh, we got a new Patrick theorist? I like this channel now. Patrick Theorist. He knows. Patrick knows he's in a cartoon.
Patrick Star has been stupid.
Patrick Theorist. Guys, if anyone can steal my Twinkle Twinkle Patrick Star theory, it's Patrick Theorist. I give you my blessing. Patrick Theorist. I give you my blessing. Please steal it. Please steal it. It would make such great content. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Okay, so, well, good night. That's all I want to say. Weird. SpongeTruths is saying goodbye.
Old pal.
I like that planky.
And we'll do speed.
How about a hug, Krabs, old pal?
I like that planky, old chum.
For a moment there, what was years of rivalry seemed like it was finally about to end, until Plankton steals the formula anyway, returning everything right back to where it always was. But what if it wasn't the case? What if, right there at the exact point in Friend or Foe, they both actually made up? What if Eugene Krabs did ask Plankton to stay, to come work alongside him, to keep going as something other than enemies? Bikini Bottom might look like a very different place, and this show might not even be about a yellow sponge who
Wait,
works.
is this their, like, what ifs? Are those considered theories? Do they consider those theories? Because I know SpongeTruths says a lot of, like, what if Patrick was never born nonsense.
As a fry cook at the Krusty Krab.
It's more of a what if, not a theory. A theory is like... A theory is proving or trying... Not proving. A theory is speculating that there is a detail within the show that isn't explicitly stated by the writers. So what if Mr. Krabs and Patrick... What if Mr. Krabs and Plankton became friends again is not a theory, it's a what if. So I don't know why you'd consider that in your theories to fall asleep to.
Now, let's actually rewind.
What if SpongeTruths never existed? You know, like... SpongeTruths' existence might be... Okay, so if SpongeTruths never existed because generative AI never existed... If SpongeTruths never existed because generative AI never existed, we would probably be better off. But I think if AI channels existed, but there was no SpongeTruths, I actually think that we would be in a worse place because you would have AI channels anyway, but you wouldn't have me being able to prop up my channel by ripping on SpongeTruths because SpongeTruths is the most fun AI channel to cover. You know? Like, I just would have had to build this channel off of a different foundation, and who knows, maybe it would have worked fine. You know, maybe I wouldn't have needed SpongeTruths to get to where I am with the podcast channel. But it's kind of funny. Not that it's good that SpongeTruths did what they did. SpongeTruths making this channel was still morally wrong because you are putting out worse content. You are making the world worse. So, but it's kind of a funny thing where it's like, you know, it's almost like how, it's almost like saying, you know, if no one ever got hurt because of the lack of seatbelts in cars, then we wouldn't have seatbelts in cars. Like, having SpongeTruths got me to talk about the problems with AI, which could lead to less people accepting AI. So, like, that's, like, good, but it doesn't mean that the existence of SpongeTruths is good, because if SpongeTruths never existed, then there would not have been a reason for me to criticize it. That makes sense.
First, because to understand what could have happened, you have to understand what actually triggered it in the first place. Mr. Krabs and Plankton weren't always the rivals we used to know. Before any of it, before the Krusty Krab,
Oh boy, are we getting
Chum Bucket,
just a friend or foe recap? So boring. Already a minute in. Like, compare this to, like, my theory that I just did. Like, here's the first minute of this theory. Like, the first minute of this theory is what?
How about a hug?
Clip of Mr. Krabs and Plankton.
until Plankton steals the case. What if
Recapping, saying,
Krabs then about a yellow
what if they were friends? And then now they're just going to recap friend or foe.
before the Krusty Krab, the Chum Bucket, and countless attempts for stealing the formulas and exploding schemes, they were just two kids. And just like what we saw in the Friend or Foe episode, they were no regular kids on the block. They were broke, bullied, and struggling in life to
Yeah, just
say
recapping.
wanted out of a junkyard. It fell apart in one
Recapping.
afternoon because they both have their own idea to fix the recipe. But in
Recapping.
the end, Patty, the other became the excuse for a war that never really ended.
Recapping.
This is the story that triggers every single SpongeBob episode for almost 2 decades now. This episode
No. Not every SpongeBob episode is about Plankton stealing the formula. I'd say like 1 in 10 are. Maybe 1 in 5, depending on the season and how much they relied on Plankton formula plots. I'd say more towards the beginning of the show, it was like 1 in 10. Towards the middle of the show, it was 1 in 5. They did a lot more Plankton formula plots, and then they kind of do fewer Plankton formula plots, so I guess it's kind of back to 1 in 10. So that's far from every.
is what's triggered the events of Welcome to the Chum Bucket, Fun, and even the first SpongeBob movie. Although, kinda worth mentioning that there's a new SpongeBob movie that claims differently. The recent Plankton movie says they were never friends at all, despite popular beliefs and the fact that it contradicts one of its episodes. But regardless, we're setting that one aside for tonight, because as you'll see later, the version that matters.
That's actually kind of a good idea if you're doing if you were doing a theory and a part of it relies on the friend or foe backstory being the one. Sometimes you can just ignore it. So there's a couple of things. Like let's take for granted that this is like not an AI video. Like let's say setting aside all the parts of this video that are a problem, it being AI, blah 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 blah. Let's just take it for granted like this is the video. Let's say you were doing a theory where your evidence to the theory relies on using the events of friend or foe to prove it. You are now contradicted by the Plankton movie. So you as the theorist you have kind of 3 options. The first is to acknowledge that there's a contradiction and just hand wave it away. Say the show is kind of inconsistent sometimes. We just got to deal with it. That's one way to do it. It's not great. I feel like if it's between that and don't do the theory at all, if you really examine all your options and there's really no way to go around it, I think that's fine. I probably would forgive like Alex Bale if he did that. I don't know if he ever has done that. He might be a good enough theorist that he would really only go out of his way to talk about stuff if he can explain it. The other way is to acknowledge that it's a contradiction and try to find evidence that supports your narrative. And the third is just not bring it up at all. Now, with this crabs and plankton thing, I feel like the third option would not be valid. I feel like you can't just not bring it up at all. If you talk about friend or foe in the context of a theory, you kind of have to acknowledge that the Plankton movie contradicts that evidence. You definitely would need to bring that up. Like, for example, in my Twinkle Twinkle Patrick Star theory, a major part of that theory is me discussing King Neptune as the ruler of the sea and how he's like a tyrant and all that sort of stuff. And I talk about in the theory, I reference the third SpongeBob movie, SpongeBob Sponge on the Run, which has a King Poseidon who's not King Neptune. And I literally just chose to not acknowledge the existence of King Poseidon because it just would have derailed the theory. And the existence of King Poseidon is not as big in people's minds as the Mr. Krabs Plankton contradiction is. These are the things that you need to have your finger on the pulse on in order to properly make a theory video. You have to have just that kind of implicit knowledge of the show, that implicit knowledge of how people view the show in order to really talk about it. It's why someone like SpongeTruths, who doesn't actually really get the show that much, who knows the show well enough that they don't make too many mistakes. They do make a good amount of mistakes, though. But clearly doesn't really understand the show they're talking about, clearly doesn't really like SpongeBob. And it's just a cynical way of picking this show to get views. You're just going to lose out on a lot of that. I think that the best way for SpongeTruths to have handled the contradiction is to try and explain it away, try to have some kind of evidence for it. Even if it's a hand-wavy one, even if you say stuff like, oh yeah, well, like, you know, the SpongeBob world has time travel in it, or there's some science fiction stuff, so like, maybe this all got screwed up. So maybe I'm just talking about the timeline where Mr. Krabs and Plankton were friends or something like that. Like, it's kind of an easy thing to hand-wave away. It's a tricky position. It really is. Like, you don't want to not do a theory just because the show has contradicted it when, like, it would be a good theory otherwise, which obviously this is probably not a good theory otherwise, so it might have just been better to just kind of can the whole thing. But, yeah. The contradiction was so unnecessary, like, if they wanted to retcon friend or foe. Yeah, I don't like it. I prefer the friend or foe backstory. I've seen defenses of the Plankton movie retcon that I respect. I have. There are some people who have said that it's funnier that Mr. Krabs and Plankton don't have a backstory, that they actually didn't meet until Mr. Krabs already had the Krusty Krab and Plankton already had the Chum Bucket. And it's literally just the restaurant across the street hates Mr. Krabs and he's just obsessed with him for like no reason. Someone explained it a little better than that. Like, there was someone who said it in a way where I'm like, yeah, I could see that. You know, I prefer the friend or foe backstory. Even though friend or foe I think is a bit of a flawed episode, I think that their backstory does make it a little more meaningful. I kind of like it. I think it makes sense that they would be childhood friends. I think it makes sense that Plankton had a hand in creating the secret formula. And that's why he feels entitled to it. But I do kind of see it the other way around, where like, it's funny that Plankton just wants the secret formula for no reason other than he just wants it. Like, there is a bit of comedy there. Sometimes when you over backstory stuff, you know, sometimes it's like midichlorians, you know, in Star Wars, where it's like, you don't need, like, it's better when the Force is just a mysterious force and it's not explained away with all this sort of stuff. You know, it might be better that Plankton just really wants the secret formula for no reason, and all of this personal stuff in friend or foe undermines that. I don't think it applies, but I think it's an interesting discussion, and it's something for someone who wants to be a writer or someone who is just interested in criticizing media to think about. Of course, if all you just do is hand wave it away and go, oh, well, there's a contradiction, blah, blah, blah. Though it is a theory video, and a theory video, I don't think you're under any obligation to do that kind of analysis. If you were analyzing the secret formula as a plot device and you don't acknowledge that, I think that would be pretty flawed as a discusser if you don't talk about the difference between those two outcomes writing-wise. But for a theory, it's fine.
Here, the one this whole video lives inside is the one where they befriend each other first and lose it over a burger. That being said, let's save the best story for last and start somewhere easier. In fact, let's not touch the past yet. What if none of that backstory changed? The fight still happened, the formula still got torn in half, Plankton still that backstory and more easier. In fact, let's not touch the past yet. What if none of that backstory changed? The fight still happened.
What video was this originally? I see it has the SpongeTruths logo. The SpongeTruths logo usually means it's a newer video because they only started doing that recently. Plankton? What if Plankton got the secret formula? What if Plankton was never born? I wonder what the original video was. Plankton, Mr. Krabs, friends? What if Plankton actually got the secret formula? Is it this?
You might think that Plankton would...
No, it's not that one. What's the original? What if Mr. Krabs has a fetish? Wait, are these other videos? Are these old videos? They gotta be, right? What's this one?
Ship could have survived, probably, but you would the all. I already went looking for the answer to that one in a video about every version of SpongeBob that stopped looking like SpongeBob, where I found something weird. So worst date ever. Greasy falls loose, and he was made to this, which went looking on something live. Because not only does Patrick Day exciting. At first, she tries to be patient. Then, one day, SpongeBob, caught in the unstoppable momentum of his own energy, accidentally knocks over a week's worth of research with one of his wild ideas. Glass shatters, chemicals fizz and smoke, and Sandy snaps.
This sounds like a fan fiction one.
SpongeBob, you gotta leave me alone. The words hit this place. No passion, just resignation. SpongeBob decides he doesn't want to work here, but Patrick reminds him that he has to pay bills. So, this time, he takes the job to pay his bills, not because of Patrick's encouragement.
What if SpongeBob worked at the Chum Bucket? Would be that one. SpongeBob Chum Bucket. Guys, are these new videos? Am I crazy? Where are they?
William's reign over Bikini Bottom compare him to someone like Walt.
It looks like some kind of
one by one,
theory.
the Krusty Krab regulars start to feel out of place. Claims to him. Elevate. While Squilliam projects confidence, the lack of real opposition starts to weigh on him.
Is there a Squilliam? Squilliam. How much money does Squilliam make? Trying to see if there's... Trying to just find an equivalent. Like, what are the exact... Oh, wait.
Just maybe all this wealth is a front to mask some fanciest house. Maybe he is to really just a fraud. Tells a octopus enough charm. Word to band class. Squidwin also already has and flaunts unapologetically. But Squid, for instance, on the titular show, is perfectly loser.
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm actually really confused. I'm just trying to match one video to another video. Trying to find them. There's just so many videos on this freaking channel. Trying to find an easy one. What's an easy one to find? It's really hard to tell what they are.
Maybe it's time you stop trying to save everyone, Krabs, and start listening to them. The ego that once fueled Krabs' every move. Respect he deserves, surrounded by critics, buyers, and going out richer, and making it all about himself instead for restaurant Krabs stuck in good with him, and dig out by making him richer. But deep down, he's just happy.
Oh wait, maybe if I go to the comments, maybe I can figure it out. Let's see. No, I don't see it. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm quite confused. No way he made 3 hours of original videos.
Recipe, which eventually turned them into rivals.
There was a time when Plankton and I were best friends.
Now, so
Oh, look at that.
can't let go of the feeling.
It's got to
of
be
being
an old
lonely.
one.
But he wants to be isolated and above everyone now.
Right, you wouldn't use that blatant of an AI image now. SpongeTruths doesn't really use images that are that obvious now.
So he buys out the Krusty Krab and rebrands it under his empire.
Okay, what if SpongeBob became rich? Has got to be it. SpongeBob rich? Rich. What if SpongeBob became rich?
SpongeBob never told a lie. Never.
Let's see, buys out the Krusty Krab, turns into Spongy Krab. Bro, I'm trying to find it. This is so tough.
SpongeBob never told a lie. Never.
Okay. SpongeBob never told a lie.
into his work, and that's when the real shift happens. One day, while wiping down the Krusty Krab counters for the third time that morning, he realizes something. He could do better. Why should he just be an employee when he could be running his own business? Why in the video? But the same success turns out to be pays. He throws and cleaner.
Yeah, this is really tricky. I'm trying to find the actual
star. Seems peaceful as an empty day. Squidward had found something he never controlled by no dumb Patrick. That SpongeBob's life is the same. He's energetic. He's still off into, as he will find out later in the video. But the same success turns out to be disastrous for Bikini Bottom. Now, if there's no one to goof off with, then there's no reason to waste time.
I'm really confused here. I'm trying to find one that is another video. I want to check if this is a compilation. Is it not a compilation? That can't be.
Desperate, just present. For the first time in his life, Patrick's not suffering from the silence.
Oh, look, it's using the different voice. It is a different voice. It's got to be a compilation if it's using a different voice. I just can't find it.
That's saying a lot. He walks past Squidward's house, past a patch of land where something should be. A house, maybe. A pineapple? But there's nothing there.
Okay, it is a compilation. I just can't find a lot of the originals. What is that? What if SpongeBob was never born? SpongeBob never born.
Bikini Bottom is standing on its downfall.
No, this one is a...
in his uniform. His parents make a...
I don't know why I can't find one that's not in there. This has got to be a compilation.
And just like that, the laugh is gone. Just kelp, sand, and water. He looks around confused, then turns back. Another day ends the way it began. Doesn't care. Because this isn't about jellyfish or being good.
Customers trickled in. Some wanted their own portraits. Others, they stink, literally and figuratively. And you would think that without the...
I'm really racking my brain here. I'm really trying to find... Plankton friends. What if SpongeBob and Plankton were best friends? What if Plankton was never born? What if Plankton actually got the secret formula? What if Mr. Krabs died? What if Mr. Krabs was never born? Oh my god, that's so stupid. SpongeBob, what if... I don't know. I can't find it. Crabs. Not... This is nuts, man. Times Mr. Krabs got what he deserved. How much money does Mr. Krabs make? Mr. Krabs' darkest episode. What if Mr. Krabs was never born? I can't find like Mr. Krabs and Plankton being friends. I'm really confused here. Very strange.
To each other, except if both in... Not really. I would think it's more of a Mr. Krabs as a whole is by this thing. In every episode, friend or foe will friend each other first, and later, they listen to Beth, would think to him as a person. Karen's the only one who really knows, and even she seems tired of asking. And Mr. Krabs, his whole relationship to Plankton isn't hatred, not really. I would think it's more of a habit, shaped by his days having fought for so long, both in the Navy and in the restaurant business, that he might not know how to fill the space if the rivalry just, ended. So even if they try to work, it would be anything to each
pretty dull.
As this again.
All right, so
he
let
would
me
be
see if
the
there's
biggest
one
fan
that's
of
actually
everyone in the
interesting.
seas. Besides, I don't think Krabs and Peoples make a great. Granted, they'll only succeed if SpongeBob and Mermaid Man don't do something first. Yeah, it's a good plot to explore, Nick. Why don't you guys make that one? But do the guy they would make a great villain pair. As for Squidward, I don't think he would care enough. The guy just thinks the picture is then not agreeing with you. Dusty. Normal children would quickly realize that the fight is not worth it. Soft and porn foods. So what does that restaurant even look like? It's in there.
I'm like so lost. I'm gonna find a different theory.
Or rigid death. Anyway, I honestly think it would clear even worse. Same walking bird one spite. Oh, which one's
I don't even know if people follow
true?
this.
And maybe that's exactly the point of
Look at the AI image.
asking. Now, let's go back. Not all
Could it be vids they just never posted and they made a bunch of extras? I don't think so. That'd be surprising. To have 3 hours?
the way, just to that one afternoon at the dump, the day Old Man Jenkins took that life-changing bite. And result second, warming born baby continuously kids are another bucket. What is for missed on hand? A month is wouldn't even this, and Krusty Krab are made by either Jim, the first fry cook, or SpongeBob himself, which means the two ever and without the rear at world with what he tended if time another sites really get who's what happened. The only
Is this still the same video even? I can't even follow.
Somebody else could be found. Which makes you wonder how much of who in a video square can't be. I don't even want to about him, especially bottom where Sponge limit as a usual leveling Yuckbot thing way back between a place where SpongeBob has Patrick for support and one where he doesn't. Because on their way back from Glove World, they get lost. And then while SpongeBob goes to check out a bus schedule, the worst thing possible happens. Patrick goes home without him. SpongeBob eventually leaves.
Why is it recapping Rock Bottom? I'm so lost. These are hard to go over.
Flipping patties for non-existent customers. He doesn't notice the devastation. He can't. It's just not in his.
Let's just do like SpongeTruths like dartboard. Let's just go to a random place in the video and I'll just debunk whatever they say. How about that? I think that's a more fun way to go about this. Let's just go here. Sure. Let's go right here. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's nonsense.
The Chum Bucket's profits start dropping. Plankton sends spies to Jellyfish Fields, and they come back with a terrifying report. SpongeBob SquarePants is building something dangerous. Plankton.
What? Whoa, where are we here? Let's try to figure this out. Okay, so SpongeBob is building something.
Fights back. Instead of competing with better marketing or better food, Plankton does something that breaks SpongeBob. Plankton isn't just watching from the shadows anymore. He knows SpongeBob is a threat now. Plankton realizes that
What is going on out of context?
SpongeBob doesn't even know how much power he holds.
Wait, these aren't theories. These are fan fictions. Why are there so many? Doesn't SpongeTruths actually have theories? Like, they have theory videos. They did, like, they started with theories.
One day,
is this the one that it was? No? I don't know. I'm really confused on this. This is all over the place. SpongeBob evil? No, I don't know. It's very confusing. But yeah, some of their oldest videos were theories. They were poorly made though. Like, look.
Something
in the original theories, this is like the old SpongeBob theories. This is their Mrs. Puff one. It has a white background. It has everything like that. Like, they were just different. These ones don't have, none of these are the white background ones. At least I don't think they are. Are these original videos or is it a compilation? I'm actually so confused. Because if they are, if it is 3 hours of just original SpongeTruths content, I'm really
just cooking because it makes him happy, and that makes.
What about any of the other compilations?
Okay.
More to fall asleep too. Okay.
I think I figured out what Bikini Bottom actually is, and no, watchingly, it is it even got. I might have accidentally made my own SpongeBob evolution theory, which made me actually start questioning this whole thing. It matters to deal with rather than to steal the Krabby Patty recipe. Not to mention, Plankton is not.
On the SpongeBob theory rabbit hole, you've probably heard Alex Bale's Bikini Bottom television theory. The idea that SpongeBob is basically an underwater documentary, and Sandy's spy theory is part of what makes that conspiracy feel plausible. Interesting, Sandy might be working.
Sandy spy theory. Sandy Cheek spy theory.
Why does Sandy
What the?
Cheeks choose to live in Bikini Bottom? This question has existed since the
Oh
beginning
yeah,
of
look, I found
SpongeBob
it. Okay, I
SquarePants
found one.
Because
Okay, they're definitely compilations. I had to go to the other one though. Have they deleted videos? Are there a lot of Is there like a lot of SpongeTruths lost media? It's weird how I couldn't find them on that first one. There's no way they're original. They have it. First of all, would not really be feasible, like even for SpongeTruths to edit that much into videos, especially when they've been doing so badly. But yeah, they're definitely compilations. They're definitely compilations. They're definitely compilations.
I actually might have just solved this outbreak and revealed Plankton's true plan. The story opens on what looks like an ordinary day at the Krusty Krab. Fred sits down to eat a Krabby Patty.
Fred? That's not Fred. Or whatever, let's just stay at this one. Let's just stay on this one, sure.
We can also see his status card here, showing his state of hunger.
Wait, you just said that was Fred, and now you just pulled up the actual Fred.
Fred sits down to eat a Krabby Patty.
Sure, let's just keep going on here.
We can also see his status card here, showing his state of hunger, thirst, sanity, and his belongings. Meanwhile, SpongeBob and Squidward are talking about how the place feels strangely empty. Things have felt a little less miserable as Squidward...
What is this? What is this video?
says. And in the back office, Mr. Krabs is already in bad shape.
What the heck? Where are we here?
At this point of the story, we don't know why. Things fall apart fast in the next chapter once Fred's eye suddenly pops out while he's running. Now,
what is this? Oh, is this like a creepypasta? Alright, whatever. It's just a cringy SpongeBob creepypasta.
Still multiplying, just fed well enough to not eat him alive. Same thing with the cured people at the chum bucket. As long as Karen keeps feeding them, sea sponges can break apart infinitely and each piece can keep growing by itself. So when Sponge...
Okay. These compilations are kind of a bust. I don't really have much to say about them. Unfortunately. I should probably find another video. I think just discussing the existence of the compilations is like enough. I can't really engage with them on their own because they're so disorganized. Like they're just so like I don't really know what I'm responding to. But we can find let's do creepy episode. Let's do what is the creepiest episode of SpongeBob, huh? This is their most recent video that did kind of good. So maybe we can examine if they come back. They're probably going to want to do videos that are kind of like this and maybe a little bit like this, but we already watched that. How old is every SpongeBob character? So let's see how, let's see why this video did a little bit better than the others. Let's do that.
He ain't budging.
Yeah, that's a kid's show, by the way. Now, if I asked you...
So sensationalist. So? What's so bad about that?
He ain't budging.
Yeah, that's a kid's show, by the way.
My goodness. Get over yourself. Yeah, that's a kid's show, but so what? That was not that graphic at all. It was very cartoony. Weird.
Now, if I asked you, is SpongeBob too much of a creepy show for kids? I know. It's a stupid question on paper.
Oh boy. This should be fun. Too much of a creepy show for kids. So, okay, here's already going to be the problem with this video. This is one issue with sensationalizing for views. So the goal of SpongeTruths is to get views. By having your narrative be that there's something creepy about this show or like, ooh, that's a kid's show, that is going to warp perceptions on what is or is not too creepy. This is a problem. I think we can learn from this that this is not specifically a problem with AI. AI will make that problem worse because it will give people power to sensationalize more, and the AI itself will choose what to sensationalize, and the AI will choose what to sensationalize based on what is already being the most sensationalized already, so it'll just make that worse. But we also can learn from just the very act of talking about something, the very act of reporting on something can sometimes make us can make us a little too crazy about certain things. We can sometimes over-exaggerate stuff. I have to stop myself from doing this, where I don't want to have a narrative of something derail the actual important thing that I'm talking about. I'm planning a video on the most recent episodes of SpongeBob I just watched. If you saw them, they aired not too long ago. And I'm planning a video on them, how it was 2 episodes, because SpongeBob airs their episodes 2 at a time. And the first episode was about SpongeBob dealing with elves that were creating... The elves were making Krabby Patties, and SpongeBob can't do his job because elves keep making Krabby Patties. So the elves were annoying SpongeBob, and SpongeBob had to get rid of them. And then the sister episode to that episode was a mime starts following around SpongeBob. So it's basically the same episode twice. Kind of. There are some distinctions in it. And when I cover those episodes, I'm going to compare them to each other based on that. It's going to be kind of like a SpongeBob just did the same episode twice. But what I want to do to have some journalistic integrity with that is I want to acknowledge what that means and like why those episodes could have been good, or the parts of those episodes that actually were good, because they did have positive elements for them. I actually thought that they were better episodes than a lot of what I've seen of season 17 so far. You'll subscribe to the main channel. You'll be able to see my video on it when it comes out, if it's not out already at the time you're watching this. But the thing is, with that video, I know that the thing that is going to get that video the most clicks, the most attention, is the fact that that video is called, or is going to be called, something along the lines of Modern SpongeBob made the same episode twice in a row, or something like that. Like, that sort of narrative is what's going to get people to watch it. Whereas if it was like a close look at these 2 SpongeBob episodes, or review of these 2 SpongeBob episodes, you could just kiss the views goodbye. It just doesn't work that way. And as someone who is in the position of making videos, I have to find that line where I'm not going too far with it, but I also am still making a career. You know, it's a very difficult line to tread, and a lot of it is a social problem that is not necessarily the fault of even SpongeTruths, but I do think that SpongeTruths has a bit of a responsibility to not lean into that. Anyone with a platform, I think, does. And by not doing that, I think it's very irresponsible to over-exaggerate a SpongeBob episode being creepy in order to get more views. I do think that that is morally wrong.
This is the brightest, goofiest, most memeable cartoon on television. And yet, if you grew up with it, you already know exactly why it's not a stupid question. Because, ironically, those creepy episodes are some of the
Wobbling. You enjoyed both the Fry Cook elves and It's About Mime. They were fine. They were fine episodes. They really were. I think they were some of the best of season 16 so far, except maybe the SquarePants method. I did really like the SquarePants method. You'll see in my video on it. I think even if you like those episodes, I think when you see my video on it, you'll see where the flaws were. But yeah. I did like them. By the way, make sure to like the stream, everybody. Make sure to like the stream, subscribe to the channel, go subscribe to Jackson Finale Podcast, link in the description. Yeah.
most memorable, maybe even traumatic, moments in your life. Here's the problem, though. There are 16 seasons of this show, and every single one of them has something worth being...
Were there 16 seasons of the show at the time that this was posted? 1 month ago? What was the date of it? June 23rd, 2026? Season 17 premiered on June 12th. So there was 17 seasons by the time this was posted. And technically, season 17 started even before then because it was like a whole... It wasn't in every country. Like, it was only in, like, I think like Ireland. It was weird. There was something where you could watch the Nerds and the SquarePants Method, but like only in certain countries on Paramount Plus. I was able to get a hold of them. I have my ways to make a video on them, but that was a whole thing. So, I mean, June 23rd, to say there's only 16 seasons, like, you know, like a part of me wants to like give that a pass and just be like, all right, well, like season 17 just aired, you know? So like to say there's 16 seasons, but also at the same time, like, are you really keeping up on the show if you don't know? Like, is he about to, well, maybe he's about to say.
Considered as the creepiest of all. So
No, he just says there were 16 seasons. Like, he doesn't even acknowledge season 17. Like, I think the reason for that is that these videos are like in a pipeline. Like, this video, it's kind of vague when it even would have been made. Like, you'll notice that SpongeTruths videos are never like current. Like, if you watch my channel, it's like you are getting videos that are covering season 17 episodes that like just aired. You know, they aired like a week ago or like 2 weeks ago, like depending on when I get them out. I've done some where I've literally gotten the video out the next day. Like I did that a couple of times in season 16. I don't do that as much now. It's hard to get a hold of the episodes just because they air on TV. So it's like a whole thing. But like you can, you know, like SpongeTruths doesn't operate like that. Like the videos I've seen on season 16 episodes from SpongeTruths are all well after those episodes aired. You know, like they just aren't current. So like I just think that's another indication of that. Just saying there are 16 seasons when you're over a week after the season 17 aired, like you're only saying there's 16 like not even there's 16 seasons and another one is starting now or something like that. Like just being like there are 16 seasons flippantly is like, it's just, they're just not keeping up to date on the show that is like their whole channel. Their whole channel is SpongeBob only. Like they should know when the new season airs. It's weird.
I'm not picking just one. I'm picking the creepiest episode of every season.
Like, I think that's just another indication of, like, this is just not a person. Like, you're just away. Like, no person would not acknowledge that who was actually a fan of this show. It's just, you're so removing it from any element of human discussion to, like, leave that out.
And no, before you say it, I'm not just listing SB-129 16 times, because the deeper I went, the more I realized creepy could mean so many things in this show, and figuring out what it does mean is where this gets so complicated. But before I can start, there are a few things I have to make clear, specifically what counts as creepy in a show where magic and ghosts exist, and where people get nuked and ripped in half on a daily basis, because creepy might mean something different to certain people. Sometimes it's dread, yes, we're talking about that something is wrong feeling for the whole episode. Sometimes it's a single image, or even frame that just feels off. And sometimes it's not scary at all. It's just gross on so many.
What is the creepiest episode of SpongeBob? I guess you could talk about multiple episodes. I thought I was going to be talking about one specific episode being creepy. But I guess it's discussing multiple episodes to say what is the creepiest. I guess that's okay.
Levels. It makes you shiver every time you watch it. So I'm not technically picking the scariest episode of each season. I'm picking the one that creeps me out the most, which...
Oh, is it one per season?
Some of these episodes aren't really trying to creep you out at all in the first place. And sometimes the creepiest thing I can find is one weird moment that just stuck with me. Even when we get there, I'll be honest.
Oh, it's just going season by season. What is the creepiest episode of each season?
Just about it. That's kind of the fun part.
So that's
really one more thing that
not a terrible structure. I could see that. Go through every season and pick out one episode that specifically fits the narrative of the video. It's not a terrible idea for a video. I bet I could probably do a video like that. I'd do it a little better. I've never done a video like that where I take one episode from every season. Like I've seen some that are like, what's the best episode of every season? What's the worst episode of every season? Could be a good idea. Maybe I could do a good version of this video.
Though, we're not bringing good or bad episodes into this context. That's another topic for another day, and you'll see me holding that line as best as I could. That being said, let's find our creepy. And we're starting somewhere you might not expect. Now, a lot of you are going to be expecting something like SB-129 or Scaredy Pants, or even I Was a Teenage Gary. And for a good reason, honestly. Aside from SB-129, the last two are the official.
Is SB-129 creepy? I guess you could be creeped out by, I guess by that definition, you could be creeped out by the prehistoric part. I guess it's pretty, and you get, it's more existential than creepy, but I could see it.
Halloween episode special for season 1, so it's expected to give you an uneasy experience. And who could forget Squidward's journey into the void of nothingness alone, which he barely survives with a...
I think that's a bit vague with the creepy. Okay, so here's the problem. You started off by saying this is a kid show, is it too creepy for kids? So I think that you kind of need to stay within those bounds. Like, the Squidward in the white void is existential, sure. Like even when I heard him say SB-129, I thought he was referring to the prehistoric SpongeBob and Patrick, like, attacking him. Like, that could kind of be like, if you're a kid, you might be scared of that. Like, I could totally see that. But this is not... It's just all over the place with its analysis.
Bit of luck. However, I'm not going to pick all of those. Partly because it's the obvious choice, and partly because there's an episode in season 1 that's...
You should... Here's actually a... and I know it's AI, I know it's nonsense, but I do think that is picking up a human tendency to not pick the obvious choice. You should never, when writing anything creative or when critiquing something, you should never allow something being the obvious choice to deter you from making a certain decision. Like, if it's like the common thing where it's like, if you, this is a George R.R. Martin quote, a man who famously can't finish books. Where's that book, George? But anyway, he has a great quote where he says something where he goes, you can't just take a story where you were planning for the conclusion of the mystery to be the butler did it, and then you go online and you see that everyone is saying that they think the butler did it, and then you change it to someone else. Because if you do that just because everyone else said so, because everyone else was expecting it, you lose out on all of the foreshadowing. You lose out on all of the like stuff that like makes sense. Now, that doesn't mean that you should never try to subvert people's expectations, but I think that the problem is that if you're subverting expectations just for the sake of subverting them, it doesn't so much mean that the plot point is the problem or that the choice of what you're discussing is the problem for the sake of a like media analysis video. The problem is if your audience is already guessing what your thing is, it means that fundamentally there is something obvious about your story. Fundamentally, there is something that is not unique about your story, or if you're doing analysis, there's something that isn't unique about your analysis. So SpongeTruths saying something along the lines of, yeah, this is the obvious choice, already betrays that this is an obvious kind of video. That the idea of, ooh, doesn't SpongeBob have weird moments sometimes, is a very commonly discussed topic. It's probably why, even though I think I would do a better version of this video, that I probably wouldn't do exactly this video unless I had a much better take on it. Like, you'll notice videos like mine, like, what would be a good example of this? What's one I did where I had a bit of that principle? I think a great example is ranking every time the Krusty Krab got destroyed. The obvious version of this video is me just saying my favorite episodes where the Krusty Krab got destroyed. But I didn't do that. I did a version of that where I discussed narrative deservedness. I discussed how much Mr. Krabs, the character, deserved to have the Krusty Krab destroyed. And that is why I think this video was so successful, because it was different. Now, I didn't make that decision because I went, ooh, I don't want to do the obvious thing. I made that decision because I wanted to find something that was an interesting discussion. And I felt that it being just what are the episodes that I liked where the Krusty Krab gets blown up was not an interesting discussion. Whereas I think with SpongeTruths right here, I mean, it's an AI, so it's not really making any decisions. But I think like the logic of this whole, I don't want to pick the most obvious episode. It just betrays a lack of confidence in your own analysis, and it also shows that the only reason you're not picking SB129, or sorry, that it just shows that the only reason you're not picking I Was a Teenage Gary was because that was the obvious choice. Whereas if that is the obvious choice, you should just own it. You know, like if I did a video where I don't know, one video I thought I would do that isn't like extremely obvious of a video is like something like discussing every classic SpongeBob episode and deciding how many of them are, quote, perfect stories. And then I define like the subjective, like what perfect means, how perfect doesn't really exist, but we can also have like what a story is and how it achieves what it's supposed to achieve, blah, 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 all that. That's a video I've thought about doing for a long time. And in that sort of video, I would make a lot of very obvious statements. Band Geeks. If I talk about Band Geeks, I'm going to say a lot of the stuff that people expect to hear about that episode. But that doesn't mean that I should shy away from it. That doesn't mean that I should like try to have a hot take. This is the only reason why you see like sometimes you see one of the controversial statements in the SpongeBob fandom is Band Geeks is an overrated episode. Band Geeks is mid or whatever. Like that's a common statement. It's only because Band Geeks is considered the best episode and you're trying to do that. Oh, what if the butler didn't do it? You're trying to do that just subversion of the thing that is already so obvious. But sometimes the most obvious choice is just the correct choice. The creepiest episode in SpongeBob season 1, it's I Was a Teenage Gary. It is. It just is the most creepy episode. All right. He turns into a snail. There's body horror. Like it just is. There isn't another episode that tops it. In terms of that. I know that's kind of a subjective statement, but it really isn't. Like at that point, it crosses a line that is so much more than any other episode that could be considered somewhat creepy, that to not have that be your pick, it's just because it's not that. And I say that not even seeing what the actual pick is.
Stuck in my head longer when I was a kid. It's the rock bottom episode.
Not even close. Like it's again, like this is just it literally, it might as well have just said to the AI, hey, don't do I Was a Teenage Gary because that's too obvious. Like rock bottom is not that creepy compared to I Was a Teenage Gary. Not even close. Rock bottom isn't even really like, rock bottom is more weird. They make the designs in rock bottom are so cartoonishly quirky that it kind of wraps around to being not creepy. Like rock bottom, they're aware that it could scare kids, so they go the other way around and they make it funny to make it not as scary. Not to say that's not a creepy episode at all, but to say I need to talk about rock bottom because I Was a Teenage Gary is the obvious pick. It's just, that's the only reason why. And I think that's bad analysis.
A story of SpongeBob and Patrick where they get on the wrong bus, then get stranded at rock bottom, and that's the whole horror of it. He is not in danger from monsters or supernatural causes. The boy's just stuck somewhere he doesn't understand, in the dark, where the rules are different and nobody's coming to get him. It's one of the most relatable nightmares in the show, both for adults and a child, especially a child. The thought of what if you were lost at unfamiliar places and things.
Wait, so the part of it that's creepy, hold on. The part of it that's creepy isn't even the rock bottomites, it's just that he's lost. That's more than the imagery of him turning into a snail and I Was a Teenage Gary. This is a joke. And again, you also said, what is too creepy for kids? Like, that's just a plot of an episode. You could actually have made... I still think it would have been sensationalist to say that I Was a Teenage Gary is, like, too creepy for kids. Like, it's not. It's fine, you know? But at least you could, like, go with that. Like, this is just, like, a stretch.
Kept not working out, and then you have to wander everywhere while trying to get a sense of where you are. For a season 1 episode, it's shockingly good at making being lost feel like dread instead of an adventure. It's a high bar to open on, and season 2 is about to raise.
Oh dang, that was very quick. I guess he's got to get through all the seasons. That was not a lot of analysis. That was such a meaningless statement at the end.
For a season 1 episode, it's shockingly good at making being lost feel like dread instead of an adventure. It's
You see how it's like saying a lot to say nothing? For a season 1 episode, not really relevant. I don't know what that has to do with it being season 1. It does a good job of making being lost feel like dread. Like, that's just the plot of the episode. You know, like you might even have like heard that and been like, oh, well, like, surprisingly good analysis from SpongeTruths. Oh, a broken clock is right twice a day. No, it's still bad analysis just because it sounds interesting. Like, what I would ask is a follow-up to that. Well, how does it do that? What are the things that the episode does that communicates that sense of dread and feeling lost? The montage of SpongeBob trying to catch the bus and he can never get on the bus gives you as the audience the same feeling of powerlessness of him being unable to get home. The designs of the rock bottomites and the fact that they all speak with this like different, the raspberry speaking is, gives us this sense that we're in a different place. The lighting gives that, the lighting of the scenes, the music of the scenes, the imagery of the fact that there's just the bus station and there's no buildings anywhere. These are all of the things that communicate that feeling. You can't just say that it does it and then not explain how. It's not good analysis.
High bar to open on, and season 2 is about to raise it because it has so much creepy to choose from. Picking just one was almost unfair. There's Graveyard Shift, and there's Frankendoodle, and trust me, both.
Is Graveyard Shift like scary? I guess if you're a kid, like at the very end, it could be kind of creepy-ish. Apparently Nosferatu scared people when they were kids. I don't personally get it. I saw Graveyard Shift when I was very young. I read Nosferatu as a funny joke even back then. He did not scare me. You know why Nosferatu didn't scare me as a kid? It's because they made him smile. They did the shot and then he smiled. Like, he looks nice. If you don't have the... I guess kids who were afraid of Nosferatu must have been kids that have already seen some kind of scary media with a vampire before they saw Graveyard Shift. I think when I first saw Graveyard Shift, I was so young that I didn't have the context that Nosferatu as a vampire was supposed to be scary because I was that young. Like, he just looked like a bald guy to me. So I didn't find him scary. And I thought that the name Nosferatu was funny. So the joke worked for me when I was 4 years old, you know. It wasn't funny to me for the same reason it's funny to me now with my like deeper analysis of that episode, but you know. But like Frankendoodle again is not like creepy, it's goofy. Like the doodle's not it's just so vague. It's like I get how you're connecting these kinds of episodes, but you're not doing it right. You're just doing it wrong. Another problem is that you're doing it by season because probably not every season has something that fits the description. So that also might be an issue.
Of those come back later in ways you're not expecting. That's a promise. There's also the procrastination episode. I mean, hell, the creepy feeling of running away.
You know what? That's actually probably the best example. Procrastination. Procrastination is way creepier than those two other episodes. Broken clock is right twice a day, huh?
Away from my responsibilities still haunts me to these days.
Yeah, you're like actually sitting and writing a video and not having a robot do it for you. I bet you struggle with procrastination, SpongeTruths. I bet. You know what? I don't relate to procrastination. I actually have no trouble sitting down and writing my videos. I'm very good at it because I actually sit down and write them myself and I don't have a robot do it. So I'm glad you were able to relate to procrastination because I sure as hell don't. Just kidding. Of course I relate to procrastination. Everyone does.
Being said, the one I think is the most memorable is Wormy. One day, Sandy leaves SpongeBob.
Huh. More than those, again, it's trying to make, it's picking one that is not the most obvious one. I think it should have gone with procrastination. I think that was such a slam dunk. That was such a slam dunk. You could describe so much. And again, it just said one line about it. It just was like, procrastination is creepy, huh? AI can figure that out. But AI can't identify the actual reasons why procrastination gets you. Why the imagery of this episode makes you feel the way you do. And the fact that it gives you all of that imagery with something that is so relatable. Procrastinating on an essay is why that episode succeeds. Wormy... Nah. I mean, like, if you're freaked out by bugs, the few shots will freak you out. But I would say that Wormy is much more of a, like, the feeling that you get from Wormy isn't so much fear. It's more so, I feel like with Wormy, what it's trying to make you feel is annoyed at the people for not getting it. Like, that's how I always read Wormy, is like the point of Wormy is that it's so obvious that they're not in any real danger to the audience because it's a butterfly. And just seeing all of the characters freak out and destroy the town over it, you're like, and that's what makes you laugh at them, is that they're like, it's like, come on, like, how do you not? And then you look at our own world and people are also afraid of their own wormies, you know, like people get afraid of things that aren't real all the time and destroy things over it. Cause that's what Wormy represents, obviously. But like a couple of shots of the bug, of the close up of the, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. It's not even the same kind of league as even Frankendoodle or the, what was the other one it said? Frankendoodle and Graveyard Shift. Like, those are actually episodes that use like supernatural kind of scary elements to it to invoke a feeling of fear-ish. Doodle Bob is more action. I don't think you're supposed to be like as afraid of Doodle Bob. Graveyard Shift is definitely in the horror element, is definitely horror adjacent. Procrastination also very horror adjacent. This is more so action, and social commentary is more so Wormy.
The whole of Bikini Bottom in a day. Now, despite the whole episode turns out to be very chaotic in a comedic sense, you know, you understand very well the only reason I picked this episode is because of this.
Yeah, and I don't think that's valid at all. I think that's a terrible choice. But AI will think that. AI will see that there's this one shot that people go, you know what? It's just taking it because there's probably a bunch of Reddit posts that are like, who else was freaked out by the close-up shot of the butterfly in Wormy? And now it's just like, it's this creepy thing. It's just bad analysis.
A real-life close-up shot of a bug. You see, the thing is, I didn't know that a butterfly could be looked at like this back then. All I know is that their wings are pretty. They fly with grace. Who know what a butterfly even is? Now, but it found a real nerve back then, and I'm convinced they do it a few strong making kids cry. It is also creepy in some way, especially if you're an old Krusty Patty is a good one. Midlife crustacean is also creepy in some way, especially if you're.
See, now it's just like twisting the definition. Like you're bringing up the panty raid, but the panty raid is more, is it inappropriate? Like not creepy as in scary. Like these are different feelings. If someone was freaked out by Nosferatu or the body horror in I Was a Teenage Gary, or if someone was creeped out by Nosferatu or I Was a Teenage Gary, that is not the same. I know it's the same word, creepy, but the midlife crustacean thing is not the same. It's not the same conversation. There's no reason to bring it up.
An old lady. One Krabs trash? It could be seen as creepy. I mean, Krabs goes out of his way to dig the grave of Smitty, Weber, Jagan Majensen, and
they, again, this is another problem, is this is so light. The way that it's similar to Rock Bottom. It's actually even more where they make this so cartoonish. The skeletons in One Krabs Trash, they are so cartoonish that it's not even remotely scary. Like, it's just not in the same ballpark. It's just taking something that is vaguely horror adjacent and saying it's creepy because it fits the narrative, because AI sees that it checks all the boxes of that narrative, whereas a person would, this episode would not even cross my mind if I did a video like this where I was like, oh yeah, what are like some creepy things that happen in SpongeBob, really out there weird moments that happen in SpongeBob? This episode would not even cross my mind, not at all. There's no weird imagery. It is the most like safe. It is the most like milquetoast skeleton you can see. It is like it would not even cross my mind.
Ends up fighting the whole cemetery residents. Is Clams creepy? I don't think so. However, Season 3 has a dark horse, which I deliberately picked today because I feel this is the one that's creepy be in the head as an adult, doing time. Again, it started funny when Mrs. Puff had...
I guess it's existential. That's more existential than creepy. Like these are different. This is it's kind of like what I said about SB129, where like the ending of this episode does stick out as existential, but it's not creepy. They're not the same. They're just different.
In mind. The fact came to a week like episode creepy 4s where I started to have to deal with the gross episodes because unfortunately Season 4 has no shortage when it comes to disturbing images. You've got Squid Bob tentacle pants. There's also the...
Are you kidding me?
Has no shortage when it comes to disturbing images. You've got Squid Bob tentacle...
This has to be wrong footage. There's no way. The AI must have said Squid Bob tentacle pants has creepy imagery referring to the ending where like Squidward has like this like where everyone is like stuck to Squidward and it's really creepy looking. And the editor must have just not realized that, and they picked this very mild scene where we see someone's skeleton.
Pants. There's also The Thing. I heard some people didn't find Smelly to be quite as funny as others. Can you consider Once Bitten as creepy as well? Well, not really. Unless you had a dying fear of a disease like rabies. The only good pick I could think of is Bummer Vacation. I mean, it gets kinda creepy halfway through the end when SpongeBob gets somewhat psychopathic when he's convinced Mr. Krabs wants to replace him with Patrick. But at the end of the day,
Again, it's just not fitting. It's just not fitting your narrative.
my pick goes to the
He acts a little weird.
Gift of Gum. Yeah.
The Gift of Gum is just gross out, though. Creepy and gross out are not the same. I guess the one part of Gift of Gum that might fit this narrative, and I want to see if it discusses it, is when there were like people trapped in there and they ran away. I remember as a kid, and I was really young when this came out. Like I was probably like 7 when this came out. Like I was really little when SpongeBob came out. So a lot of these early episodes I saw when I was really young. But I remember when I was a kid, there were like certain things when I was really young that would like freak me out, like specifically. And I would say that in Gift of Gum, the fact that there were people trapped in the gum that SpongeBob set free, the idea of them being trapped in there, I remember really freaked me out as a kid just because they didn't have any context for that being like a joke. I just was like thinking about like how they were like stuck in the gum for all that time. I think it made me feel claustrophobic or something. If it's just complaining about the gross out, that is not valid. That does not count. That's not creepy. It's just gross. Different subject. That one I could give. Let's see if it mentions it.
The episode about Patrick giving SpongeBob a used wad of gum for Best Friends Day. I mean, chewed gum is one thing, but he gives this
for Best Friends Day. Notice how it said for Best Friends Day? Like that was a thing that is... It said it almost like Patrick gave it to him for Christmas. Best Friends Day, there probably is a national Best Friends Day, but it's not really a thing. It was just a line in the show to give him a reason why he's giving him the gum. But AI doesn't understand that. So it sees Patrick says it's for Best Friends Day, and it reads it exactly the same as if he had said it was Christmas. This is another thing about how AI will never really get all of the context.
Massive blob of chewed gum that Patrick's rolled around town like a Katamari. So it's got...
He didn't roll it around town. He rolled it from his house to SpongeBob. Again, just saying things that sound right but aren't right.
Got stuff in it, like hair, garbage, and if you look closely, a person trapped in it.
Oh, a person trapped in it? It's actually multiple people.
What kind of person thought this kind of gross thing would be fitting as a gift for your closest loved ones? Well,
what? I actually thought I was about to say what kind of person thought this gross thing would be appropriate for a kid's show. Which would be a little pearl clutchy, but I could get that. I could get that criticism. That was a gross episode. I didn't like it as a kid because I thought it was a gross episode. Like, The Gift of Gum did bother me as an episode, not just because of the people in it, but, like, it is really gross to watch. It's actually, if you set that aside, it's not a bad episode. It really isn't. Like, it has a story. It's actually kind of decently funny. It is, but the gross out does make it very distracting. I just can't stand getting mad at the characters. Getting mad. Yeah, it's Patrick. That's the point of the story. Is that it's a bad gift. Yes, because it's gross. That's the point of the story.
Patrick, apparently. And the fact that the gum wins, basically the whole town ends up coated in it, which would prove to be more chores for anyone in Bikini Bottom. It's not creepy in the sense that used gum is so disgusting. It's more of, the thought of your friend actually wanting to give it to you with a smile on his face.
What? That's your argument for why it's creepy? That Patrick... It's not even the imagery. So it's even dumber than I thought it was. Because, like, I guess there's 3 ways you could look at this episode in the context of it being creepy. The correct take, which is it's creepy because there were people in it, and that could, like, freak out a kid. Like, the idea that there were people, like, stuck in this gum for, like, years is, like, a really freaky thought. And then you could look at it as, oh, it's gross, and, like, that wouldn't really be as strong. But just the fact that Patrick gave it to him, that's what makes this the creepiest episode of season 4. This is nonsense.
Yeah, it could be that he doesn't know any better, sure. But what if he knows and intentionally gave it to you because he knows?
Dude, they always do this. No, that's the story. You had it right the first time. Patrick doesn't know any better. He thinks that it's a good gift, and that's why he gave it to SpongeBob. That is the story. There is no other read of it. That is the story. AI always thinks that, like, someone is, like, out to get them. They do this with Patrick all the time, where they say, like, oh, they did this with the secret box. They said, yeah, Patrick only had the secret box to rage bait SpongeBob. It wasn't actually about it. The story doesn't make sense if that's Patrick's reason. Like, you can't even argue that for, like, a theory. Like, maybe you could, but the problem is that you would screw up the actual themes of the story. And if you wanted to do that as, like, a theory video, you would have to understand that you were undermining the themes of the episode and work with that. That would be the only way to do it. But this isn't even a theory video. This is a talking about episodes being creepy video. Why are you speculating that Patrick was malicious when he gave it to him? There's nothing in the text of the episode that makes it seem that way.
You will be too soft or rejected anyway. So yeah, I think this one is the most creepy episode for season 4. So that's my pick for season 4. Coming next is episodes and specials. And more gross episodes, unfortunately. Why? I mean, because it would be To Love a Patty. Or maybe even, unfortunately. The obvious gross choice would be To Love a Patty.
Yeah, but that's gross, not creepy. It's not defining what it actually is.
Or maybe even Goo Goo Gas. Why? I mean...
To give you some context, like, I would think if you wanted to do this subject, the only one so far that would be legitimately creepy, I could give you I Was a Teenage Gary, maybe Nosferatu, depending on the person. What's the other one? Procrastination. I think that's it. I think those are the only ones I could give you that would actually fit this narrative. There's really not a lot. I believe season 4 has Ghost Host. I don't know why it wouldn't choose Ghost Host. Ghost Host is a very creepy episode, imagery-wise. Shanghai, too. Shanghai, I guess it's only really Shanghai's alternate endings that would be creepy. Because the main ending, the SpongeBob ending, is really not that creepy, I wouldn't say. The ones where they actually get eaten are pretty weird, I would say.
Because look at those babies. Tell me that doesn't haunt your sleep. But yeah, that's just disgusting rather than creepy. The same...
Oh, he admitted it. Okay, he admitted that it's just gross, not creepy. Wait, so if that... Wait, you just contradicted yourself. You said that Goo Goo Gas and To Love a Patty don't count because they're just gross. But you just went on about how Gift of Gum is the creepiest episode because it's gross. Or because it's Patrick gave it to him and thought it was a good present and it's gross, which is also a bad argument, but, like, still. Wasn't another one gross out too? No, it was just that one.
Be said about the Battle of Bikini Bottom. So, as much as I wanted to pick a new episode for season 5, the award goes to the same episode that I also picked as the most abnormal ones in my last video, Spongehead. This one speaks...
Yeah, I mean, that's the... Yeah. Yeah, I can give you that one. Spongehenge is pretty... It's more... Again, it's more existentially creepy. I'd say it kind of skirts the line between, like, creepy, and existentially creepy like SB129 or something. But yeah, I think it's like as a choice, sure. It's not going to analyze it properly.
Passed away for who knows how long, and not to mention, it ended with the whole town basically in shambles and a field trip of an alien jellyfish that decided all this Spongehenge is some kind of...
Wait, what?
Basically in shambles and a field trip of an alien jellyfish that decided...
A field trip of alien jellyfish? Dude, you analyzing this episode is like your most popular video. I think like their second most viewed video is their analysis of Spongehenge. Are you kidding me? These are not, first of all, they're not aliens, or at least they're not known to be aliens. It doesn't say they're aliens. They're not jellyfish because jellyfish still exist in this. This creature exists 2,000 years later in the timeline. I guess an alternate timeline because not everything is chrome. Or is it 1,000 years later? It's something like that. If it's 2,000 years later, then it would have to be an alternate timeline because not everything is chrome. But I guess it's 2,000 years later with the wind destroying civilization. And these creatures I always thought were implied to be just what Earth creatures would be in 2,000 years. Like, I just thought it would be like a new species that has evolved, not aliens. I guess they could be aliens, but nothing in the text says that they're aliens. In fact, it seems like they're not aliens because they're interested in deconstructing the history of this world. It's just that they've lost why the Spongehenge exists. They just don't know why it exists. It's like Stonehenge. Like, we don't know why Stonehenge exists. It's just there. So the joke of the episode is SpongeBob created the Spongehenge to keep the jellyfish from bothering him because he has holes. And then thousands of years later, the new species that lives on Earth doesn't know that. I actually think the ending is less meaningful if they're aliens. I think they kind of need to be Earthlings in order for this ending to make sense.
All this Spongehenge is some kind of old civilization art. Then again, even if you don't consider it creepy, I don't think we have a better choice. Or did I miss something? Let me know, because Season 6 leaves no room for doubt. This is where the show got good at making you sick. Season 6 is arguably the pinnacle of the gross...
Wait, hold on.
Good at making you sick. Season 6...
Okay, that's the Splinter. That's Season 6.
...is arguably...
I don't remember that episode. That's not Season 6. This is from Just One Bite. This is, does this look unsure to you? So that's not from Season 6.
The pinnacle of the...
That's Nasty Patty. That's not Season 6.
Gross out era of
I don't know
SpongeBob,
what
as
that
if
is.
to perfect the...
That's so weird that they just didn't have... Just this channel just does not care about the show. They don't care about you. They don't care about their viewers.
2 seasons before it. I don't have to mention them since it was...
Like, Squid's Visit is not... I guess it's creepy, like, existentially, sure. The Splinter is gross out. You just said that gross out doesn't count. House Fancy's gross out in one scene. Is this about creepy episodes or is it about gross out? They're different. These are different subjects.
So obvious, right? And so that only left us, or me, to one episode. Gone. The story about SpongeBob gets left alone in the city.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty creepy. Sure. That kind of fits its narrative, but I don't even know what its narrative is anymore. It's all over the place.
Mean episode. Season 7, the cursed one. And you already know what you're bracing for. The mean episodes. The torture ones.
The Splinter is Season 6. You just talked about it.
Expecting me to dig around in that pile, which surprisingly turns out to be good choices here when you think about it. A pal for Gary or one course meal is creepy and makes you feel uneasy to some extent. The same could be said about Squidward in Clarinet Land, which is, I think, wanted to pick a horror something until you a loop into the night, he can't stop, and he starts coming up. Or based psychological wanted to pick into something as well. That's why I picked. But since I've already picked that for my most abnormal video, I think one of the highlights of Season 7. But since I've already picked that for my most abnormal video, I wanted to pick a different one, and that's why I picked Earworm.
You can't pick other things for your list just because you covered it in a different video. Like, you're not being objective. Like, the objective creepiest episode of Season 7, at least if I know it's subjective because it's opinion-based, but you know what I mean. Like, you would pick One Course Meal or a pal for Gary. Like, I'm sorry they're the obvious choices, but they're the correct choices.
Yeah, this one proved upsetter. He buys the record, pull the actual earworm out of his head, and makes this members for episode that felt disturbing. Let me so many years. Ghoul Fools, so I thought, because this was not an easy pick at all. Speaking of which, I think Ghoul Fools is a good shout just because the Halloween specials are back after so many years gone. I really like this episode. Lord Poltergeist.
Ghoul Fools sucks. Ghoul Fools is not good. I think it's such a bad episode. I watched it for my Flying Dutchman video. I couldn't believe that it was a special because it's just so underwhelming. Maybe it would have been better if it was just a regular episode. It just did not. It just did not justify its runtime. I thought it was so lame, so unfunny, so meandering. Literally, like, and this is the analysis of something like SpongeTruths, or just AI in general, or even just people who are kind of shallow in like why they like stuff. Like, I feel like you could look at Ghoul Fools and like it just because it's unique. And because it is a special and because it has a different ghost character that's not the Flying Dutchman. Literally, like, that being a lot of the discussion around this episode is probably why the AI that makes SpongeTruths videos went Ghoul Fools is a good episode. Like, it's literally just that. Because there's nothing you could really say about its plot or its comedy or its story that makes it a good episode, that makes it even a mediocre episode, makes it even an okay episode. It's literally just, it's kind of a unique episode, and that's like all you could really say about it. But AI will see that and they'll just be like, it's my favorite episode ever, you know, or whatever.
Seems to be a more competent ghost than the Dutchman when it comes to actually torturing and scaring people. He's still not as strong power-wise, but yeah. Then again, this episode is more of a fun one rather than being creepy. Face Freeze is filled with disturbing expressions for the that's just episode in the season. Gets hold of two, the Krabby Patty that ate Bikini Bottom. And then the Patty does because it keeps eating.
All right, I can start kind of flying through these. Yeah,
Krabby Patty, any normal anything, say on first
get it.
Schmeance or Squid Baby. Now, both substances that are hidden beneath Goo Lagoon. It proves to be a problem once Plankton gets his hands on it, and then they have to save the day. As for Seance recipe, anywhere close. Think Goo Goo mention it's a Squidward torture episode, built on the idea of a fun time and by the crawl to begin winner without any meaningful competition. It's the housewarming episode. We've already seen a worm sitting inside SpongeBob's head once, but what if you multiplied it? What if they overtook his whole body to throw a rave inside him and practically turned him into a...
All right, so we're kind of getting it. It's just picking like kind of like vaguely... It's kind of picking like episodes that have like kind of vaguely weird imagery. I feel like it's kind of all the same here.
A spiritual successor to I Was a Teenage Gary, but in episode Squidferatu. On a strange day, Squidward a good... The first thing the modern era does with that freedom, it starts digging up its own graves. A callback to the good old hash-slinging slasher episode, Squidferatu. On a strange day, Squidward accidentally gets Nosferatu's mail. Yes, that Nosferatu. The vampire from the silent film, the one to the cast episode. That thing,
so
but in this episode,
recapping.
Slappy Days is Slappy. Doing, however, the third option, and my choice for the creepiest episode in season 13, goes to Walhalla. SpongeBob's was living movies, the prettiest described episode modern story seasons, coincidentally, also makes the creepy picks easy to spot. They've got an episode that is a straight-up horror con, but dead. So during seasons, Halloween special, Creepaway Camp. It's a pretty good episode, and I really suggest...
Creepaway Camp. It's a pretty good episode. Creepaway Camp is straight trash. It's the same thing as Ghoul Fools. Like, what is it? What makes Creepaway Camp a good episode? Other than the fact that it's a special and it does things that are like different from other stuff. Like, just because it does things that are different doesn't make it a good episode. But it'll come off like that to like an AI that doesn't know how to analyze, and it just makes analysis worse as a whole.
You watch it if you haven't yourself. I actually want to make a whole separate video about it in the future, so I'll leave it at that for now.
Oh, is SpongeTruths gonna make a Creepaway Camp video? I guess that'll be some good content for me.
All I say is that even though it's built around the Camp Coral reunion, they pulled it off splendidly, giving us a proper, creepy Halloween episode. Some more frustrating. Season 15 proved to be the most difficult out of all, simply because, for the first time, the show ran low on the kind of creepy I'd been at myself, but weird here. Like also happened. Remember way back of it, Bob studying bites him to drive. We're back with Curled Down On. This is the other half of it. 14 seasons later, we're back with Curse of the Weredoodle. So one night, SpongeBob's studying late for
All right, so it's saying the creepiest episode in season 16 is Curse of the Weredoodle. Oh, no, it's not?
And if anything, Go Fetch serves as a highlight for its crazy good high-action animation rather than a creepy horror story. Combine that with great music, and you got a short movie that deserved to be 16 seasons, 16 creepy little acts. So, as the whole journey released, but finished, and that's unlike its sister episodes, which is underwhelming, to say the least. And that 16 seasons, 16 creepy little episodes.
All right, whatever. Yeah, so that's SpongeTruths. So, yeah, so I just thought we'd watch one just to see their last one that did like kind of well. Oh, it also was a very long video. Sometimes longer videos do better. That could have been another reason why it did well, but you could see why this one kind of did okay. Is it like a lot of the ones that have done really bad lately? What SpongeBob characters sound like in other languages, or how SpongeBob made a perfect pilot episode. Definitely the political one and this one, the homophobic one. These videos were like just very incoherent with a lot of their points, and I think people just noticed that. Whereas like with this creepy episode one, like you could, I was able to nitpick it and see what's wronger. I could nitpick it and see what was wrong with it, but it's just weak, like if you actually like look at it. But I feel like a lot of people who are watching it would not really clock that. They would just be, oh, I remember that episode. Why do longer videos do better? Well, it depends on the channel. It does depend on the channel. Like for me, so like it depends on the channel and it depends on your audience. So like for my audience, I've noticed that between 20 and 30 minutes generally is where I do best. That's usually what's best for me. But a lot of videos that have gone farther, like my most recent one is a lot longer, but we don't know how well it's going to do just yet. But like, for example, like my Camp Coral video was 2 hours long, and my Camp Coral video kept getting like views like a little longer after, like it just has longevity to it. Longer videos, depending on you as a creator, can generally do better for you because they just stick more in your audience's mind. They stay with your audience more. They think about it more. Whereas if all of your videos are 10-minute videos, which is generally the average, like lowest, like some people do even like 3 or 4 minute videos, which I think you would be kind of shooting yourself in the foot, but some people are successful with them. But if your videos were like only like 10 minutes, even if you did a couple a week, like if I, instead of doing one 30-minute video in a week, did like 3 10-minute videos, which would probably take the same amount of effort, I probably would do worse because I would stick less in my audience's mind. If someone actually sits down and watches a whole 2-hour video of me talking about Camp Coral, which around 20% of the people who clicked on this video did, those people are going to remember that there was a guy they watched who talked about every episode of Camp Coral for 2 hours. They're going to remember that. Not everyone of the way fewer people who watched this I Am Concerned About the Stewie spinoff, this video probably didn't really stick in their minds as much as a longer one does. So for someone like, and usually that translates into a better view duration, and that can often translate into, like, if someone's going to click on a 28-minute video, they're probably more likely to be committed to a longer video. Whereas if someone is going to click on a 10-minute video, they might give it 2 minutes and be like, nah, and they're just not into it, especially if you're SpongeTruths and you suck, But yeah, that's kind of a part of why. So generally, if your average of your videos, like SpongeTruths is, they average about 10 to 20 minutes on their videos. Yeah, we see, 11 minutes, 12 minutes. Yeah, they only average about 20 minutes. Not many go over 20 minutes. 23, like that one's kind of longer. If they do a 28-minute video and it's longer than their average, that could contribute to them doing better. Like sometimes when I do a video that's a bit longer than average, where it goes a bit like over a half an hour on my videos, I generally can feel confident that it's going to do a bit better, and its length can be like that. Its length can be a contributor to that. But yeah, anyway, we will keep up on SpongeTruths. We will see. Usually they post on Sunday as I'm doing this stream. It's Saturday, so I will see if they post a new episode. I will see if they post a new video tomorrow and see if they're ever going to come back. I'm not sure. It's very weird. These compilations are odd. Very odd to me. Very strange behavior from SpongeTruths, but yeah. All right, that's going to be it from me, and thank you so much for watching. And we will see ya next time.